The Diff Lock switch is my next job on this. Let me just get my tripod in the right position. Right, so the switch goes in that hole there. It looks almost exactly like that. Okay, and the idea is that when that switch pushes up, it closes the circuit, and when it opens like that, it opens the circuit. Quite simple, really. The Diff Lock, as you've seen from the work I've done already, is basically a fork that moves backwards and forwards in there, and that's the plunger that does it. So all this really does is this diverts a vacuum, comes from the engine, and diverts it to one or other of these two ports down here in order to pull the shuttle or push the shuttle. Okay, so my vacuum in this particular instance is provided by my trusty Pella 6000 oil extraction unit. It's the easiest way of creating a vacuum. It doesn't need an enormous vacuum, but if I put the switch into the I want Diff Lock, okay, which is lifted up, and I give the system some vacuum, there we are, you see the shuttle whizzed across there. Okay, now if I close the plunger, it will go back and forwards. It might have just run out of vacuum then, because they're not particularly efficient, these things, and I didn't give it an enormous amount of vacuum. Now once it's got the vacuum, in theory I can release the vacuum and it will stay in position, because you remember there was a spring under here and there's a detent ball which goes against the shaft, which goes through the middle here, that rod sits on. So at the moment we've got no vacuum and this thing is diff locked. Okay, so if I rotate the rear drum, the front prop turns. All right, I'm just going to rotate it back a little bit, because otherwise the splines don't engage. Sometimes, if you're finding that the plunger doesn't go right the way across, just rotate the diff. Rotate the output or the input shaft just a fraction of a turn, and you'll find it will then engage. So the next thing I need to do, you want to come over here now. I'm going to sit in my trusty chair here. Oh, thanks James for the chair. The switch. Dead easy to check. If these don't work, by the way, just replace them. You can't. It looks like you can take it apart, but I've never ever had any success in taking one of these buggers apart. So all I'm going to do is put my multimeter in the own range across the two terminals, push the plunger in. Oh, and it goes closed circuit, open circuit, closed circuit, open circuit. So we know that's working. So multimeter can now step out of the way, and you're going to come back over here. So the next thing I need to do is really screw this chap in, but I want to work out how deep it needs to go before it bottoms out, so to speak. So I'm just going to screw that in. Oh, we still need the multimeter, because I just want to check that I'm getting a reading across there. So what I'll do is, let me just arm the multimeter up. Probably the tripod's in the way now. Hello tripod. Right, that can go in there. Fuck you. And that can go in there. Is it going to go in there? It's thinking about it. Get in there, you bastard. There we go. Right. We've got no circuit because it's not gone down far enough yet, which is good news, actually, because I want it to go a bit further than that anyway. So let me get the tripod out the fucking way. You can stand over here because you don't need to see this close up. Let me just wind this in a couple of turns. There we are. That's about as far as it's going to go. Connect up the multimeter again. Oh, we're getting open circuits. Oops. So we're getting a nice circuit now. Sorry about the whistle. Let me see if I can silence the whistle. Can I silence the whistle? I don't think I can on this particular device. Now what I want to do is I want to turn the diff lock off, and we should... that worked. So I can enable the diff lock. Oh, God help us. Disable the diff lock. Might have just lost its vacuum there. So the switch is working. That's good. As is the pipe work. That is good. That was fucking easy, wasn't it? Right, so now I need to connect up the electrics to that, which I'll do. And get the multimeter there was tangled around. The other one I will check, by the way, over here, I think you can see the reverse gear plunger. Let me go over there and just double check that works as well. It's easier to access these bastards when they're in the car like this. So let me just put 2 terminals across the 2 pins, and we are right. So I'm getting a circuit when we're in reverse. Take it out reverse, we're getting no circuit. So I'm happy that that switch is also working. In fact, there's the 2 wires for it. So those 2 can go straight on there. Like that. There we go. Right, let's wire up the rest of this now, secure the wiring, and then I can think about putting the transmission cover on. Oh lordy. Right, the only other thing I've done here is I've replaced the weediest earth cable I've ever seen in my life with something a bit more substantial. I mean, I can't imagine when you turn the starter over that's not going to glow. So I've given up on that one. Customer can have that back, and I put something a bit more grunty in, and I shall put another earth strap from the engine to the block, to the chassis as well. Right, all of the oil levels are good on this now. Right, one last job I need to do before I put the cover on is sort out the cross shaft. However, cross shaft is in a perilous state, largely because it came apart. So I got that piece off there, and that piece goes like that. Okay, so that end needs to fix into there. Have you ever seen anything like it? It's like it's been in the fucking sea. I've never seen anything like it. So basically the hole in the top there's where I drilled it out to basically knock it out. So I ground the weld back and then drilled it, heated it, bashed it out. So I'm going to have to find another way of securing the top end of the shaft. Now it could just end up being, I don't know. I can go to my machine shop chappie and say, oh, could you make one of those for me, please? And he'll say, well, can't you do it yourself, Richard? And I'll probably say, well, yes, probably, but the shaft itself, so that's the hole that that pin needs to go into, goes in like that, and then that fork clips on there like that. That's how it should work. No, that fork clips on like that, because I basically got the lever, come over here, because I want the lever, which is where the silver bolt is, to be on the driver's side. This hole on this side, that's purely for left-hand drive. Okay, one of those. So again, the rod is ambidextrous. So if you've got an overdrive and you've got a left-hand drive car, then all you need to do is to unscrew the rod from the car. By the way, the reason I put a bolt in there is there's been some gibbonry going on here. Now, I probably don't really need to change it, but what I've done is I've established that that's a UNC thread in there on that nut that someone's welded in there, and I'm inclined to actually just chop the head off this, or put the bolt in from the upside down, and clamp it back in again. First of all, I've got to work out what the fuck I'm going to do about that. I don't really want to be drilling the hole any larger, so it's going to be something's going to need to go in there. But it needs to be robust enough it's going to work. Or I go back to my machine shop and say, oh, make me a fucking load of these, will you, chap? For the sake of one. Because it's the only... I've got another cross shaft for mine. No, mine. Not yours, it's mine. My overdrive, which is there. And that shows exactly how it sets up. Like that. Okay? And you're going to say, oh, why don't you use that one then? Mine. Just mine. I might end up using it. We'll see. And then I've got another overdrive handle that came out of a series. I think this one did. You can see someone's made it up of a bit of threaded rod. I think we'll probably use the customer's original because, although it's shit, at least it's original. Oh, the other thing I do need to do is the handbrake light is broken. The handbrake switch, I should say, is broken on this. You can see here, there ain't nothing there. It's just snapped off. So I don't quite know how that happened. Want me? We like that when I got it, honest. And I'm just going to see, because I need this brass nut. And I have ordered another switch, which should be at home. But I'm rather hoping that either this one, this used one I've got here, will go on, or the new one if it's arrived. Right, I'm going to have to get this wank spangle off. That's an interesting word, Richard. Oh, here it comes. God help us. This really could be a lot easier without the camera in the way. You folk want to see what's going on? Want to see me trap fingers? Go over there. Because once I've done handbrake, wiring, there's a nut there. There's the remains of the switch in there. A nice big fibre washer. Right, well, we should be able to do something with that, I'm sure. I don't know if that's actually part of the... I don't think it is. No, it's not. It's coming out. It's coming out whether it wants to or not. Oh dear, oh dear. God's teeth. Right. It's out. Now. Oh, good Lord. So we know that's working. I've got the loom here. What are you looking at? Not very friendly. You look at that. I've got the loom here, and I've got wires for handbrake, which is the black and white, and the Diff Lock, which is these two, I think. We'll double check it in a minute. And then what I'm going to need to do is to position the loom, and use the little clamp here, which has been provided. Actually clamping the loom for some reason, it's just too big. The loom's too big. But just check everything out really. So I've got an earth down here, and I've got an earth there. Well, I only need one earth, don't I? Yes. Now, interestingly, on this Auto Sparks loom, there is a white feed up here, and I don't quite know what that's for, but I'm guessing that's ignition live, and that's a worry. So that one's handbrake, black and white. And what I'll do is I'll put a ring up here so it's supported and out of the way. I think that might have been a bit cack, to be honest. I'm going to dump that one. Let's see if this handbrake switch is any good. So what I really do here is connect the two terminals. It's not uncommon for these things to flounder, I'll be honest. You can take them apart, and I might have to take this one apart. I'm going to take it apart and I'll show you how I fix that. It's turning into a bit of a bastard of a job. So the problem I've got is I kind of need a stepped bolt. That thing is just too far deformed for me to do anything with. You can see roughly where the split pin would have gone through it. That is also bent and deformed on the end. This is okay, serviceable. That is bent and deformed. I've tried to straighten it, but it's not straight enough for the shaft to go through and run freely. So I've sold my customer, in exchange for the other one of my overdrive linkages, and you can see how beautifully that works. Now he's got his handle on it. You can see it's a bit wobbly at the moment because I need to weld the thread into the end of the shaft here for now. But you can see how the overdrive goes into neutral and out of neutral. That's working beautifully. I'm happy with that. So now I've done that, I can put the bloody gearbox cover on, which is the job I wanted to do today. It's the only job. That was the target for today, was to get the gearbox cover back on, and we've achieved. Diff Lock wiring. Dong, 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 dong. So obviously you need 12 volts, ignition controlled or fused going to the switch. And then the bulb needs to be connected to the other side of the switch, and then the bulb earths. Dead easy circuit. So on the Diff Lock switch here, we've got a green wire. Fabulous. That'll be the fused ignition controlled feed. Absolutely outstanding. Exactly what we want. And we've got a black and blue wire. Now I know for a fact that the black and blue wire goes to the Diff Lock light up here, which is very late B suffix onwards. Unfortunately, when it comes to dash tops, it's Hobson's choice these days. So as you can see, this one's got all sorts of shit wired into it. Weird stuff. So if I find, there it is. There we are, there's the black and the blue wire, and that would have a bulb in it which would go up there. What I can do is I can cut the black and blue wire here, yeah, and I can put bullets on it, and then I can connect in this as well, so both light up. I think that's got to be a useful kind of compromise. I can't see any other easy way that it's going to work. So basically the green feed comes off the back of the reverse light switch. You can see there's two wires up there. It goes back into the loom, down to here, and then gives the power for the Diff Lock switch. The handbrake light switch is on the earth side of everything. So basically all the power comes from the bulb up there and goes all the way through to the loom to here on the black and white wire via the pressure differential warning activator on the inner wing under there. So basically if that fails, if the brakes go unbalanced, then you'll get the brake warning light come up as well. So it's a good way of checking that the brake warning light is actually working. If you pull the handbrake on, the brake warning light comes on. It won't come on, or it will stay on if the circuit is compromised because the brakes have lost pressure in one circuit. If you disconnect the connector from the inner wing, then the brake light will not work. The brake light up here, sorry, will not work. Brake light down there will work, although it's not connected. Why is that not connected? There's a world of pain going on down here, I tell you. Right, so we're back on target again. We're putting this gearbox cover on. I think that's really where I want to be going next. I can go cutty, crimpy. In fact, what I might do is do that now before the gearbox cover goes on. This loom's also a bit on the tight side down here. I'm just going to go under the engine, see why it's quite so tight. It's not really giving it as much slack as I'd like. All tangled up at the back of the bulkhead. This is the wire that goes down to the gearbox, and it was all wrapped around this, and then it was attached onto a tie up here, etc, etc, etc. Now I've got that untangled, I can put that clip back up there, and we can see, I think it's unnecessary, but the bolt's there, so I might as well give it a go, hadn't I? There we go. You can't really see what's going on, and I can't really do it one-handed. There we go. Right, there's a nut there. Just pop that loosely on there so it's all kind of held together. There we are. Right, now, because all of this loom is the bit that goes down to the back of the starter motor, down there. I might need to do something with that lot, and then we've got the battery wire, which is just sitting on top of the engine at the moment, and then we've got all the wires for the gauges. So to my mind, all of this lot should be over here. But then it really needs to be protected as much as it possibly can be from the exhaust. Right, let's turn you off. So now I've got a load more slack here, like a tumble. Right, so I'm going to butt crimp, take 3. I'm going to use snap bullet connectors on this. So I'm going to snip the black and the blue wire, and I'm just going to put a bullet onto each end of it and connect them together so that the circuit will work. When you're doing bullets, you need to kind of just strip a little bit back, more than you would do normally. I've got a selection of bullets in here. I'm going to guess that this is a 1mm bullet in here. I'll rest that against my coffee for a second. What I can do is I can test the 0.5. These are fucking expensive, these 0.5 bullets, I tell you. No, it's definitely 1mm. Good. Right, so going 1mm. Boing. And I got my nice little bullet crimp tool, which I got from Vehicle Wiring Products. Make sure that the wire's pushed as far in as it will go when you crimp. And then you... fucking Richard! Twat. I think maybe it is 1/2mm, because that just fell straight off there. It's hard work getting that on there. I don't want this to fail in service, you see. I'm not convinced. I think maybe I just didn't crimp it properly. Go for another 1mm. Might be a 2mm bullet then, in the 1mm section. See, that feels tight enough. I think I just didn't crimp that properly. Probably because I was looking at my coffee thinking, ooh, I'm going to have a mouthful of that coffee when I've done this. That's better. And then give them a little haircut on the end. Boop. Then we'll do the other bit. And another 1mm bullet. And Mr. Crimp. There he goes. Right, well, he's definitely crimped. Let's put 1/2mm one away, and then we'll get a joiner, which is a double bubble joiner. And if I pop that into one and that into the other, then that leaves me then the option of being able to fairly easily push another connector in there. Either disconnect the one that goes up to the dash, I don't understand why you do that, or plug in a second bulb, which is then going to go to here. Right, having done that, so we get the green wire, then goes back onto the reverse light switch, and the green and brown wire goes back to the reverse light to the back, or green and pink I should say. And then I've bound the handbrake wire in with the other wires. I just really need to put these bolts back in now, don't I? It's that fucking difficult. Oh, although I made it look completely difficult by ballsing it up horrifically. Right, what I'll do is I'll just position that in there loosely. I shall run these down here. I shall run the 2 wires for the diff lock switch down here, and I shall connect the handbrake wire up, whoop, and the diff lock switch, whoop, and whoop, and then I can put the bolt in. Wrong bolt. Want this bolt. That one keeps falling down. Good, that's excellent. Put that one in there. Now, where's the bolt gone? Probably sat sitting on it. It's good work, Richard. It is good work. Lost the fucking bolt, boy. How'd you manage to lose the bolt? There it is. Silly arse. Right. This bolt, I'm just bolting it up to one of the bolts that goes onto the output flange on the front output. Probably could have done with drilling these holes to about 8.5mm to be quite honest, but never mind, doesn't matter. When you're doing these bastards up, just be careful you don't crimp the wires, won't you? Because that would be silly. That's nice and loose. Nothing crimped, tight. Then we'll put this one up here. Likewise. Then, I think then, I'm going to be able to put this transmission tunnel cover on. What I'll do is I'll leave the diff lock plunger as it stands right now, because I still need to run the pipe up to the front. So any of you wanted to know which way round they go, pipe to the front of the vacuum unit goes to the front one on the two that are together, and the one to the back goes in on the back. So I don't know if that helps. It might help, it might not. I'll get some of that coffee now. I might want to do something with those as well. I suspect what I'll probably want to do is tuck them round the back there. Can I get that through there? Cool, just about. There we are, that'll do that. What I'll actually do there, I think, is I'm going to put on the other side of this. Unlikely they're going to contact the prop, but I just don't want it. I don't want the risk of it. It's just a belt and braces, there we go. And that can go back. One nice feature about these early gearboxes, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed it already, I don't know when they stopped it. I couldn't tell you when they stopped it. 1 second, we're just about done there. Dipstick. Nice, huh? Right, that can go there, that can go there. And basically now we've got the diff lock warning light, we've got the handbrake warning light, we've got the reverse lights, and then we've got a double bullet connector over there, which I shall utilise should the customer want the illuminated diff lock plunger. The only other thing we haven't got, and there isn't one unfortunately, is the overdrive warning light, but you're just going to have to get used to that. Should really the instructions say only use the overdrive in 3rd and 4th gear. I should imagine it's pretty pointless in 1st and 2nd. Right, let's get this transmission cover on, because I'm fed up with looking at it over there. There it is. Can you see it? Through the window. Through the open window. There he is. Boom! Well, as you can see, I'm tidying up the workshop. More bits that go onto this car, the tidier my workshop gets. Hopefully that's not going to need to come off again. The only thing I do before I put these on is I put the bolts in. There's a pair of bolts which hold the supports which go through the chassis down here. For some reason they're never fitted. And the other thing I do is, because the captive plate is always missing, I put riv nuts in here. So these are M6 probably riv nuts, and they hold the back end of the seat bracket that goes over here. That thread's good, that thread's good. These bolts here, I just reach through these holes, put nuts and bolts in. And as you can see, the overdrive linkage lines up beautifully. Now, the only thing I've really got with this does seem to be fucking close to the top of the gearbox. Now it's possible the top of the gearbox is dented down slightly, so I'll get a slide hammer on it once I put a couple of bolts in at the back here and just see if I can lift the middle of the back of the gearbox up. It's only a millimetre or so. I can't get the overdrive linkage any lower, but I think once this is all bolted down, it's going to be even tighter. With me? But all of the levers all work. Overdrive will work, handbrake works. Yeah, that's a move in the right direction, isn't it? Workshop's tidying up. Dale, the light's working beautifully, mate. Oh yeah, very useful. It's not a fluorescent tube, because I know a couple of people have been fooled by it. It's actually just a load of LEDs strung together in a bit of old plastic PVC tubing. Probably doesn't meet any CE standards, but it's very useful around the workshop. I've not managed to kill myself with it yet. And over here, well, I'm going to tidy this lot up next.